right, welcome. My name's Jake Young. I grew up skiing around Alaska and British Columbia, and I've got a fair amount of experience doing it. And I thought I would go through. I asked ChatGPT to ask me random ski questions, and it's kind of funny to answer them actually. What drew you to the world of big mountain skiing, and why Alaska? Well, I was already here, and then I was obsessively. I just fell right into it. Like it was either hockey or skiing, and I liked hockey a lot, but I chose skiing, and specifically. I like the freedom of the big mountains versus racing per se, and that's just where I went. It was just like, it used to be called extreme skiing, then it was free skiing, then it was big mountain skiing, then it was free skiing. Now it's, who knows what it is. It's just powder skiing is what it is. Can you describe one of the most memorable ski descents in Alaska? My most memorable, I mean, there's a lot of memorable. It depends on what you're trying to define as memorable, but I think the first backcountry ski I ever did was with me and Abe up Little O'Malley Peak. And it was just the first one, so it was almost like all the others were just such a blur. That the one was like, it was kind of the start. So it's like kind of pops out in my head for the question. Yeah. It was pretty steep. I mean, it was pretty good. It was a real confidence booster that we pulled it off. Helped us keep on trucking. Big mountain skiing comes with serious risk. How do you mentally prepare for the high stakes environment? What mindset do you bring to the mountains? You need a combo of humility and self-confidence. Like, you need to know what you know and know what you don't know, but then you can be humble. You could be, not say humble, but what's the word? Ineffective if you're like scared. Humble can be scared as well. Like if you're top of running, you're scared, you're going to be acting crazy. And if you're overtly confident, you'll be acting crazy. So you got to balance like what aggression, where do I need to be aggressive and where do you need to be passive in terms of like choosing an up route, choosing a down route. And different groups of people, you'll vibe with different groups of people because people will have different risk tolerances for either or. And you can come in conflict. You generally try not to, but you go with different people and they're like, I wouldn't hike that, or I wouldn't do this or that or whatever. So you all try to agree. So usually if you get locked in with some people that you work with, it's great. What's your approach to physical conditioning and endurance for skiing in such extreme conditions? How do you train for both strength and stamina to handle these challenges? Good question, because it's very physical. Like the downhill skiing part is basically anaerobic. Think about it, you're just like cha, 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 like doing power squats for 5 minutes. And serious leg burner. Like I can go running all summer, be in super good run shape, and then you go skiing and your legs are just obliterated. Or you could go even in the fall, go hiking and ski like beautiful, nice powder runs, and your legs, it's like they'll be tired. Like your first few runs are like, oh my God, I can't even do this. But then you go to the resort for the first time, and then your legs get destroyed. Like there's the downhill leg destruction, but then there's like uphill leg power in aerobic capacity. And there's a lot of people that are very good downhill skiers, but they can't hike a mountain. Then there's a lot of people that only go ski touring, but then they're not that good on the resort. So if you want a whole broad spectrum, you need good shape physically or aerobically and anaerobically. Could you walk me through your decision-making process when it comes to evaluating avalanche risk and mountain safety? How do you stay sharp in unpredictable environments? Your decision-making process, who am I going with? Where are we going? What's the wind, sun, and snow doing? What's the shape of the mountain that it's landed on? That's basically it. You kind of decision tree, like I'm gonna go with my teenage kids up the thing. We're not gonna, then you have to plug the acceptable risk into who you're with. If I'm going with my teenage kids, it's gonna be super low angle chill backcountry. But if it's like my hardcore ski bros, we'll be going for the gnar. But even when you get up to the gnar, then you'll pick apart like that's too much, that's good, that's bad. Oh look, the snow's coming this way. So it really is like a case by case, aspect by aspect decision making thing that you never kind of stop doing. And you'll even get, and a lot of times if it's sketchy, it's actually a good practice to like practice turning around, practice finding excuses to be like, I actually do that, I pretty much do that when I'm by myself a lot. It's like look for reasons to turn around, and then you'll find them, and then you feel happy when you turn around. It's kind of interesting. Versus the opposite would be like ignoring all the danger signs and charging ahead. I mean, I know obviously going by yourself is a whole other thing in itself, which intrinsically is dangerous, I know. So that really heightens your decision-making skills because of that. How has skiing in Alaska's rugged terrain pushed your limits both physically and mentally? Can you recall a specific moment we felt at the edge of your capabilities? I mean, if you're doing it right, you feel like you're at the edge the whole time, I guess. Not like you're like, oh my God, I'm about to die. But you get right to it, like, you know, you're on the edge of your ski, so to speak, but in one run, you'd be like, like, oh my God, but you get it together, right? That was the edge of your ability. Or, oh, I'm hiking this whole mountain, it takes me freaking forever. Oh, I'm at the edge of my ability to get up the mountain, or the edge of the ability to, like, whatever. So that's why it's amazing, because it puts you right at the edge of your ability, the edge of your decision-making skills, and then you go back to the real world where you're nowhere near the edge of your ability, just sitting here in the safety. Yeah, that's why you do it. What's one key piece of advice you'd give to someone wanting to elevate their big mountain skiing or mountaineering skills? What's the most transformative lesson you've learned? Quantity is better than quality would be my first thought. Quantity. That means going out in all conditions, not wait for the good weather, not wait for, I mean, you're not going to go if it's absolutely horrible, but go anyway if it is refrozen crust, or if it is wind blown bad, or you just go no matter what, because that's actually the best way to get better. A lot of people, oh, it's not good, I don't want to go. Well, then you're limiting yourself to skiing when the conditions are easy, and then therefore your ability is lower. But if you can ski your ability into the bad conditions, you get on the good conditions and it's just nothing. That's my advice. Quantity and yeah. Do you have a particular pre-ski routine that helps you stay focused and ready? I'd love to hear about any rituals, either physical or mental. Nah, not really. I mean, putting your ski boots on is kind of by default. You're like, click, putting them on. You're like, oh, here we go. That's kind of when you know you're doing it, when you're putting your ski boots on. No, but it's not like I'm getting all crazy. If you're going back, I mean, you do pack your backpack. You do think about your day. You can be kind of ritualistic about it. And yeah, I mean, you're waxing your skis. That's a ritual. You're doing this, you're doing that. You're checking the batteries in your beacon. You're checking the camera batteries. Like, there's all the ritual to it. And you don't realize, it's actually funny answering the question. I haven't read these, realizing it's all kind of ritual. It's like a religious experience, really. Here I am, I go from opposite, like there's no ritual, to like, oh wait, it's all ritual. It's a religious experience. How do you manage fear when you're about to tackle a steep, dangerous line? Is there a technique or practice you rely on to stay calm? How do you manage fear? One thing I do, I find it's funny, is when I actually do get scared, I'll say it. I'm like, ooh, I'm scared. Like, I'm scared. I'll tell my friends. Just make it clear communication. You're not gonna like, I've never, like, if it's something that I'm so scared that I'm not gonna do, I just don't do it. And I have no fear to be like, I'm not doing that. That's crazy. And I'll say I'm fear when you acknowledge, that's where you're right at the edge, when you're like, I'm afraid, but I can still do it. You're like, and then you face it. If every time you're afraid and then you don't do it, you're like, you're never gonna excel. What's been your greatest learning moment from a failure or a fall in your career? How do you bounce back from tough situation? Ooh, greatest fall. I got an actual greatest fall. I had gotten sponsored. I just got sponsored for snowboarding. So Atomic was a ski sponsor, and my dream was to be sponsored for skiing and snowboarding, big mountain shredding, blah, blah, blah. And the board I got it that day is this Atomic big old 170 mountain thing. And that same day, that night, it went to my head, talking about being humble. I've been destroyed by arrogance, actually. I don't know if you can tell. I got caught. We got the snowboard, and then went poaching on North Face at night. Did it once, did it twice, went in the back a third time. That was the crazy part. We got away with it the first and second time. Got caught the third time. Boom. Kicked off Alyeska for 2 years, fired from my job, lost all my sponsorships. Moved to Canada for 7 years. So yes. What did I learn from that? Don't be too full of yourself. That would be the answer. I know I appear to be full of myself, but I swear I'm not. What innovations in gear or technology have been game changers for your skiing? How do you stay on top of gear evolution to maximize performance? That's a good question. I mean, you got every brand every year is coming out. This is the new best thing. This is the new best thing. And they rarely are the new best thing. The new best thing that was the new best thing for real was fat skis in '98. Basically, fat skis have been around for like a while, but they were kind of like looked upon as only for fat heli skiers. Like the Atomic made the Atomic Powder Plus. There's some others, I think. But it was like, oh, fat guys who can't really ski, they use that ski, like, because it was so easy. It was like, that was like such a funny attitude. Like, oh, it's so easy, we can't do that. Where everyone's on 207 skinny skis, making like idiot chopping down the mountain. So that was the actual learning curve, and that was driven by copying snowboarding, because skinny skis were still the thing. Snowboarding came along and just obliterated everyone in terms of performance. Then fat skis came out of that. But since then, I mean, there's some stuff. You got the rocker skis, and I was pretty long to get on that board. I saw they like clown shoes. I actually had in my mind, I was more of a race or performance. Like I liked traditional, like I liked fat skis, but with the side cut. Like I wanted the performance of a race ski that was fat for hard charging, because that's what I did, blah, 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 right? And then finally, just a couple of years ago, 3 years ago maybe, I finally got on some big old Volkl Shiro clown shoes, and holy moly, it was fun. So fun, so easy, just whooshing around. Feels like you had hockey skates on. You could just float and go. And I was like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. But that's what I do. I get locked in, like, I'm susceptible, I'm not perfect. You locked in, and you're like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. But when you ride them for a while, they are fun. They don't have the same top speed. Like in POW, they still boat through it more, where a stiffer, flat ski will get across it. Which, speaking of innovation, the skis I've been making, I swear to God, they were ironically the most innovative, but the most simple, because I was going for flat camber, zero side cut, but with a pintail. So the ski's shape naturally let the tail set in the snow, and you can get away with a real stiff ski because you didn't have all that side cut yanking on your leg, because you can have a big fat ski that's stiff with side cut and it feels huge. For these, it was this, but the straight edge, not reverse. The straight edge, I call it the infinite side cut, and you can milk it from front to back. You could use the whole edge. You had to like kind of milk it through the turn. Anyway, then I backtrack. I mean, that's where I'm at now. The last 4 or 5 years, I've shifted through, like I've got like 60 pairs of skis. So I'll use the super tiny little Atomic 911s or 922s, and then go to some huge super fat clown shoes, and then I switch back and forth. The objective being to be able to ski. So that would be the other piece of advice, would be ski all the different kinds of skis you can, all the conditions and all the different skis, and be able to try to ski the little tiny skis on the big mountains and the fat steeps, you know, but then also learn to ski them, but then you get on back on the big skis and learn to whip them around like they're little skis, right? Or in other words, like try to ski like a snowboarder and snowboard like a skier. Like I'm always cross-referencing these things back and forth in terms of how to get better. This is how I do it. So I did it. So I'm doing it. What's next for you? Are there any particular mountains or lines in Alaska or elsewhere that you're aiming to conquer? What's on your dream list? How do you plan for the next big adventure? You're never really conquering anything. It's just letting you go there, not killing you, is what it is. Like that's literally what it is. Like I remember one day up on Goat's the big mountain around here. We were like, oh, we did Goat. Like that's a big one. It took me 5 times climbing it before I got to the top of the thing. It's not that it's huge. It's like 6,000 vert from just, you know, climbing, but it's technical and huge, like just exposed, bad weather. Anyway, we skied it the one day. This big couloir, it's like this huge couloir, and then you got to cut in across into it. Like 4 or 5 of us got through. Then the next day, that night, there was an avalanche, or sorry, an earthquake. And you looked up there and you could see that whole area we had been on, this huge hanging death slabbed off and went off the 2,000 foot cliffs. And you're like, oh, I was just right there. Like literally that night, it was crazy. Plan for the next big adventure. I got the snow machine. I'm looking to shred some POW this winter. That's what it's all about, shredding POW. Like, I don't like getting scared as much. I do like it every now and then. My tolerance for it's a little lower. I like skiing fast still. That's always what I like to do. And I like to go fast enough that like little things become big errors, you know, where you're like fast and flowy. You're not like, you know, gonna die if you fuck up. I don't know, is that it? ChatGPT, that's all you got for me? I think so.